Okay, we have a new theme available in your back office right now. It's called Darkside. You can set this up as a regular website under CMS and funnels, or you can create it in templates and funnels. This theme comes with 6 different homepages, so you have various versions of the homepage that you can start with. Each come with various different blocks, so you have all sorts of different blocks, so you can pick out whatever homepage that makes the most sense for your business, or you can delete the blocks and add your own blocks and build out whatever you like. Just a few of these, I won't go through all of them, but they do have a different theme, different header for each one, and various different blocks that you also have available. There's over 50 blocks that you can choose from to build out your individual pages. In addition to this, we also have a pre-built about page. Again, you can delete the blocks or create your own blocks and create your own pages. We also have inside pages, 6 different versions from the header and footer here, and then you build your blocks in between. We also have typical inside pages with just like the title, and then you build out your blocks below, different variations of that. Just a little bit wider here on the page title. And then we also have more of like a content block here and a column here, and also the reverse of that. So you can, build out a page that has more text and things like that. Also have a mega menu that you can use and create. I'll show you how to edit that, as well as a showcase gallery. So 3 different galleries you can choose from, a pricing table. It's broken down, and pick out whatever pricing table you want, delete the rest. You can also use the standard contact page that we have set up in here. We also have a CTA or conversion page where you can put your own data form in here and use this template to do whatever you want to do within the site. And we also have a privacy policy. So this is a live privacy policy that you can use. It already has the tags in it, so it'll brand it for you. So you can use as is, or you can edit and change what you want. So that's live there. So all these pages are available when you create the website. So as soon as you name it and create it within the funnel section, it'll build out all these pages for you. So I broke this training down into really 2 parts. First part, I'm going to cover just some of the tips that I would do with this theme. In addition to that, there's functionality that's only available in this theme. We are adding the functionality to the previous themes, and of course, all the themes coming forward will have this new functionality in. So let me dive into that real quick. And then the second part is going to be about the blog, because there's actually some cool stuff here with the blog. Right here is actually a live blog. I set up a blog for this theme, and this is pulling in the live feed from that blog directly within a widget within the site. So I'll show you how to use that. And that part, setting up a blog, has been a challenge for many because you have to be an advanced user to really understand the concept of setting up that blog with your theme. So I will walk through how easy it is to set up a blog with this theme and how to get this feed onto your site. And then of course, have this designed any way you want with additional blocks and things like that. So I'll save that for the second part. So the first part, you're going to come into CMS funnels or templates funnels and hit create new funnel, and you'll see the new Darkside theme here. As soon as you name it and hit clone, it's going to build out all those pages for you. Customize the pages you want, change the names, delete the rest, and starting from there is just a much easier spot. So once you create your theme, it'll show up here. When you go in, this is new functionality over here. This is gives you the ability to change the color scheme throughout. So previously you would have to select this button, go into the style editor, change out the color scheme or background color, and you lose this nice gradient and things like that, right? So this allows you to quickly change out that gradient. So these 3 colors here, this gradient right here, you change out, and they'll change out everywhere that gradient's being used, from the text section here, buttons all throughout. And then any additional colors within the site are all controlled here. So you can completely change out the color scheme of this site real quick. So the best way to explain our builder, or at least any builder that you're working off the DOM, or just what you see here, think of everything layered, right? So whatever you're clicking on, so there's a P tag, I'm clicking on this, I'm editing this, but this sits on top of a div, right? So this div here, now if I want to do something with this div, maybe clone it, create a global block, whatever. I've selected that. Same thing goes here. I've selected this whole section. But there's other sections in your code that you can't see that are beneficial to build off of. So for example, if you use Divi or Elementor or some of these other, and you start putting in elements to your site, if you've ever looked at the code, it's nuts. It's crazy. It's not structured properly. It's just a bunch of useless stuff in there. So your load times are hindered by that. It's just not good. So we've made it really easy to have a really good structured coded site without having a code, if you understand the concept behind this, right? So this right here is a div, but there's actually a section below it that you can't see. So we have this little functionality right here where a little up arrow, right? So if I click that, I can go to the parent. So now I'm on the parent section here. But the easiest way to get to it is actually over here. So these are all the sections within the theme. Every single page in this theme has broken down sections. This is the best area to start with if you're wanting to add additional blocks, right? So traditionally you would select here and then click this plus button, and you would have all the blocks that you have access to, and you can quickly add whatever block you want, right? By the way, this is to revert anything, undo anything right here. The problem with that, it looks fine to you, but as a structured code level, it's not that great. So by selecting these, you have really nice little layout section blocks that you can add blocks to. Why that's beneficial is when you save, it'll have additional blocks here if you do it properly. And they're all named, and so it's easy to organize all your blocks and understand where they're at, opposed to just kind of freewheeling, going here and putting whatever you want in. Now you have all this, mixed layers of code. You can do it that way. That's perfectly fine. I mean, you can come in here and continue to add in whatever blocks you want and build out however you like. However, if you want, really good structured code, start here. So let me just start fresh. If I want something to go below this hero, I would actually select the hero. Once you select something, by the way, if I select this, I can hover over anything I want, but as long as it's selected, whatever I click, if I click this or click this little plus button, that element is selected. That's what's being applied to when you insert a block or whatever you do. So for instance, if I want the hero section here, even though I'm hovering over and all these other things are happening, if I just hit the plus button, I know that anything I do after, right, inside is actually inside that section, which is not ideal for these content blocks. These content blocks, you want them to go after each section. So in this case, if I did after and I've selected here first, right? So if I selected here first and I hit this, I know without a doubt, whatever I hit, whatever block is going to be code clean. It's not going to be within a div and all that else. I mean, it's going to look fine, but structurally it'll look really good. And then when you save it, this actual block will have a name here for you. So it's just organized. Anyways, it's one of the things that I love doing. So it just makes it much easier to work with, in my opinion. Another thing, navigation. So a lot struggle on cloning elements. So on a navigation element, there's a lot of hidden, ULs, LIs, there's all these different layers under here that you can't see. So the way this builder is set up, you're interacting as if a regular visitor is going to the site. This allows you to view what's happening and really edit what you want and experience what that user is going to experience within the site. So if I want, let's say, another navigation item, you would select this and then hit clone. We'll see how it goes below. That's not ideal. You don't want that. Let me undo that. The reason why that's happening is because you're actually just cloning this top layer, and you really want to clone the hidden layers below it. So anytime you clone and the result is not what you want, hit the undo button, come back to it, and go up to the parent section within there. So if I click that, now if I clone, boom, right? Works great. So just notice if anything, doesn't come out the way you want it, just undo it, come back in, go up another layer and clone it. And now you have the result that you want. Same thing goes for like the whole navigation, right? So if you select the whole navigation and you clone that, that's not ideal. You don't want that, right? You want to be able to go up a layer and then clone that, and now you have your whole section there. Which, again, in this, there's too many nav items. That's why that's dropping down there. So you want to remove a nav item. So it's not too cluttered. So here, another thing. Let's say you want to clone this element here. So if I select inside page 3 and I want to add another one, if I go up, it disappears. Well, as long as you have it selected, it doesn't matter what happens here. The reason why it disappears is because that's what happens on the navigation. You're hovering away from it, so it's moving it away, right? So I have it selected, so I don't have to worry about, even if it disappears, it's already selected. So if I clone it, there it is, right? So I have 333. Now if you're in here editing it and changing it, it's not going to disappear unless you move your mouse away, but you're still there. So if you come back, you're still editing it. So just note things like that on the navigation. If you're hovered over it and then you move your mouse away, it's going to remove the navigation, but as long as you have it selected, it doesn't matter. You know that you're cloning that element. So you have your page navigation you're creating. Another thing too, see how it's inside dash page dash 3 //. That's our internal format for all your pages. So your page name is all lowercase. Any spaces would be dashes. You want to have a relative path, so //. So that's how you would link it internally. So if you come over here and select, I'll come back to this, inside page 1, you'll see inside page 1, that's the format link, right? So it's just whatever you name your page, that's how you're going to build out your navigation. Another cool thing is this is already set up with global blocks. Global blocks are sections within the site that you want to reuse. So for example, I can make this a global block, name it whatever I want, and hit add block, and that's going to add this particular code, this block right here, to my global block section, which is down here. This global block section, when you built the theme, it creates all these for you. It creates your mobile nav, your global header, your global footer. All that stuff is already set up for you, so you can reuse it on the blog, or maybe you're going to start fresh from a blank page and you want to use those and start building those blocks out. But this is not limited to the ones that are created. You can create as many as you want. If you want to have, this section right here, you want to reuse this section somewhere else, you can. What that means is if you make a change here, no matter what page you're on, if you make a change, it'll update across all of those pages that global block's on. So that's the power of the global block system for your header, because all you have to do is set your navigation on one page and it'll update across all of your pages. So as you add a page, you may want to come in and update your navigation as you build your pages out. You don't have to go back to all your other pages and update your navigation. It'll do the exact same. It'll update every one of them for you. Same thing with the footer, because it's already set up as a global block for you and you don't have to do that. So again, just be mindful of the fact that these are all layers, and if you're cloning something, you're not getting the result that you want, hit the undo button and then go through this button up here when you select to go up one more layer up, clone it. If you still don't get the result, go another layer up, and I'll show you an example of that happening below. So again, layers, select what you have, go through, make your changes. Same thing here. So if you need to edit in what you will, you click in and just go through and do the same thing right through here. So you have every bit of it within here to use. So where this becomes, I guess, trial and error as far as what sections you're going to clone, it is a good spot to explain that in. So for instance, let's say I want to add a third step or a fourth step here. So if I select this step and hit clone, well, that's not ideal because my little timeline didn't duplicate and it just pushed it down. You don't want that. You want it to look like this, right? So I will have to go up a layer and then hit clone. That didn't work either, right? So I need to do it again. come in here, 1, 2. So now I have that block completely selected, which, by the way, these are layers below that you can't see. This gives you an opportunity of getting to those sections. You can also access these sections over here. So if you want to go and really find it and find a very specific like hidden div or something like that, you have access to every little layer that's within here to find it and then clone it. So I hit clone here, and now I have another timeline. Perfect, right in here. Same thing goes for all these little sections, right? You know, if you're going to clone these sections or whatever, expand on however you want within here. So again, if you know, this section is very useful for, I want to hit something after the timeline. This is a really long timeline. I've selected it, so now I know whatever I put in here is going to show up right below that timeline because I selected it over here. If you select here and just do it the way we've been talking about, or have you done in the past, you have a lot of different blocks to choose from, and they show up just fine and they work fine, but not structured in a way that, you know, someone like me or anybody who's looking at the code would see that there's just so much useless divs there, and the structure here follows in line. Video buttons. So when you select the video button, you have this little href right here. Anytime you select on the video pop-up, it's going to pop up. But you'll see over here that you can change out the URL. This can be any hosted URL, video, Vimeo, wherever, to swap out this video. If you compress your videos and load it in our system, you then get the actual file or the source, the actual link to it, and put that in here to swap out this video. This client feedback section, same thing. You're going to want to find the div, clone it. If you want more, you do have to go through each one and edit, right, as if you're the visitor. So that's how you come in and edit each one. This is a unique, second part of this training is to explain this. This is actually the blog post that I have posted on the blog coming straight through the site. This little widget right here, when you select it, you have an option of choosing a blog, which I'll go over in the second part of this training. So yeah, so go through, you know, whatever homepage that you want. You know, there's several different pages that you can start with. Pick out the one that's closest to what you want. Remove the blocks that you don't want. Add in the blocks that you do want. And a good practice for me is like I would go one block at a time, or build out, or just select all the blocks I want, build out my conversion architecture, save that, then come back and edit each block. But you can, you know, go one by one and say, okay, I know my conversion architecture needs to show my services right after this. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start making my changes, my edits, change whatever I need to change here, and then save. Another tip on save, I always like going to the top and saving. That way, whatever's being interacted with on the DOM, you know, these fly-ins, all these little things that pop up and things like that, I just like to make sure it's fresh when I save, and there's no useless code being saved in like all these other builders. When you save, you just have all this junk in your code. If you get back to the top and then hit save, you'll always have like fresh, good, structured code that's being saved without having to mess with any of the raw code. And there we are within this section. So again, just build out your blocks, figure out what you want as far as your conversion architecture, save it. To rename pages and things like that, if you're on that particular page, you can just hit this settings button, and it'll take you right into the page URL and page name. You can also click on this pages tab up here, and you can quickly delete whatever pages you don't want within the template. Like I said, there's 17 pages within here, and you know, once you're done building everything, you can remove the ones that you don't want, and also change, you know, the individual name and the page URL that you want for that page. And then go back into the builder. So one of the other things here too is like the data forms. So let me go on to the contact page real quick. So on the contact page, you have two things. You have the Google Maps section. So if you click here, this does nothing because it's interacting with the actual map as if you're a visitor on the site. You have to click outside of it. So if you click outside of it, this is going to give you the option to put in your address, change it to satellite or road map, you know, your zoom in, however you want to do it. And then, of course, when you save it, it'll have all your information saved with the, view larger map for directions and things like that. And of course, if you put your address, you'll have your PIN there. Same thing with data forms. So as you come with a data form, this is just a sample form. This does nothing. You're obviously going to want to put your form in. One of the things about this design is it doesn't use labels. So when you're building your data form, there's an option for a placeholder text. That's what's this right here. I put first name as placeholder text. So for instance, I have a couple of forms that we just threw in for imports. When I select right here, I have an option for data forms. When I select a data form, I can select any form that I have set up. But if I select, let's say, there's an import one, right? So this import one didn't have an actual placeholder here, and there's nothing in here. So so now you're not seeing this field. You got to update the placeholder. Also, that one too. That's why these are showing. So you can just switch between your data forms. And it's always good practice to have a placeholder anyways within it. So this one has a placeholder and everything looks fine. I think there's a scheduled demo, looks fine. Yeah, so you're just switching between your data forms. When you save, this is actually your live data form. So you don't have to use the embed code or any of that stuff. Just click on the div outside, and you'll know you're on the right div because you'll see data form over here. What else is important to this theme? Down here, if you want to change out the newsletter, you're going to select the div around, right? So that div here, it shows data form. You know you're in the right place because you won't see this. If I select here, I don't see it. I have to come over here and actually select the data form. So go build one with just email and submit or whatever. It already has the design. I mean, even if I wanted to put that in there, that's going to show up whatever, right? So you don't have to just include email there. You can have first name or whatever. So create your data form. It'll show up here. Select that div. It already has the styles and everything built in for this theme. Really easy to work with on the data form side standpoint. So yeah, that's a quick overview on the blocks. Like I said, just the biggest tip that I would say is, if you're not getting the result you want when you clone elements, go up an actual parent node or parent div and then clone it again. You can always revert your changes here. And then if you're just adding blocks to the existing site, so for instance, if I deleted this block and I want a new block here, I would click on hero. And it's already selected no matter what, as long as I don't click on anything else other than this plus or this plus, I can then come in here and grab whatever block I would really want for that section. And really easy to kind of build out what you want. Each little section here, there's actually two other things I want to cover before I end this. So there's two, I would say, a typical, there's a lot of different systems out there, and a lot of them have, like, you want to embed a gallery or embed something like that. And so you have this little widget that you have to, configure, you put your images in and things like that, and then you embed it. Problem with those, if you look at the code, it injects all this stuff. It just bloats your site. It's terrible. So I've always hated those. So what we've done with our gallery, we actually have a page called Showcase. So if you come into the Showcase page, which by the way, we have this widget or content block, several of them, 3 of them, different galleries. So the way to edit this gallery, it's a little bit different. So I want to swap out this image right here. So I'm going to select the image. As I said before, when you click the image to the visitor, it's going to pop up the big image on top. But because you already selected that, no matter what you're seeing, you selected that. So whatever you do over here is actually removing that particular image. So I'm going to go ahead and swap out a new image real quick. Just use my pick for a second. And so if I close this, that image is gone. However, how do I get this image? So if I click here and then select this image, this is actually not what you're changing. And I want to explain this, why this becomes a challenge between an advanced user and non-advanced user. One, you don't want all this unnecessary injected code from all these embed widgets that you put into your site. But 2, you also want to have the flexibility to really do anything you want with lightboxes and the gallery itself as an advanced user. So as a non-advanced user, how do you allow both to happen in the same environment? And so the way we've done it, So for instance, this image that you're seeing right here is actually injected at the bottom of your site to the DOM. So the user thinks, it just basically pulls an image from a reference within the code to show this image. So if you swap this image out here, it actually won't change the image for the experience for the user. And the reason behind that is because the actual image sits on an href. So right behind this image, there's a little href right here. So if you select this little, see the A right there? If I select that, which is selected, you'll see this URL right here. This URL right here is what's pulling this image in from the code of the gallery. So for you, for a non-advanced user, an advanced user would just go into the raw code and swap it out or manipulate it however they want to manipulate it. As a non-advanced user, the way you would do it is exactly like this. So one, you want to swap out the image, select the image, it pops up. Don't worry about it being popped up. Just go select your image that you want. That's easy enough. You changed it. Now you need to hit the little href right around it. And this right here, this URL right here, is what you need to swap out with. So the way to swap that out is you have your little file manager over here. Click on your file manager, come over here and find whatever, here I'll just do a different image. And choose that image. So again, it didn't replace this because this is actually just a reference of a link, this link, which by the way, I got to put this in this right here to swap that out. So it's not going to change until you close it. So when you close it, there it is. So the reason behind that is because this interaction right here, when you click, it's pulling that reference that I changed in this section right here. That's how this gallery works. That's how most galleries work. They're using a data attribute or they're using a link inside the actual image itself. So instead of having this very easy little side thing where you can create as many, swap out the image in both sections, that injects more code than is necessary. So in our gallery, it's real simple to do. You select this, change that image out, close it, select this, go up into your file, grab whatever image you want. By the way, when you select an image here, this is being saved to your clipboard. So you can just come in here, do that, close. Again, there it is. So it's really easy to work with. Same thing with the cloning. So if you're going to clone, you want to make sure that on the div that you're selecting, when you clone it, just make sure you're getting the result you want. If not, go up another layer like I mentioned before, if you want more than what's provided here on each of these galleries. So again, all of these work the same way. I think that's pretty much it with this theme as far as things that you should look out for. The rest is pretty standard on all our other trainings. But yeah, there's just tons of content blocks that you can use to really build out what you want. It may be helpful to create a test page. Oh, by the way, when you create a page, you have to select through a template, right? So just select whatever template. If I want to create, an inside page for one of those templates, you clone from that template. This also clones from any of your pages that you have built, right? So once you have an inside page that you want and it looks exactly the way you want, you're going to use for every other page, select that as your template when you create your page, and it'll create it from there. And if you want to create it like a test page and then add every single block to that page and save it and go and preview and figure out what block you want, pretty much every block on the Darkside preview link is available for you to select everything as a content block and use throughout. So I'll have the second training on the blog here in just a second, so you can access that on how to set up a blog for the Darkside.